So resolution season is here, and I figured that before the champagne gets popped and things start to get a little bit fuzzy, we should talk about some science. So there is actual science behind the idea that wins lead to wins. If you make a shot, you have more confidence to take the next shot, and there's even more to it than that because the first win triggers an endorphin response that actually helps you make the next shot. The same thing happens over a longer period of time as well. It's why a quarter ounce of gold a month or a 10th ounce of gold a month can actually help you keep more motivated than buying a 1 ounce coin every third or fourth month. So let's get some science into this just for a minute. I think it's interesting. Behavioral psychology will tell us that small habits allow small wins, and related wins keep you motivated to lock in those habits. That part is pretty straightforward, but biologically, there's actually a chemical optimization that happens here as well. If you activate your dopamine center, that leads to increased testosterone release, and testosterone is a really big driver for motivational biology, motivational energy. So it's more than that quick dopamine hit that your body wants to repeat, or even a behavioral pattern that just gets easier over time. It's an actual chemical optimization in your body. Now, dopamine and testosterone are bidirectional, which means that one triggers the other. So you get this biological upward spiral where wins really do lead to more wins, and over time, small wins lead to bigger wins. And now that I've just ruined a pretty simple idea by bringing science into the story, let's get back to the gold and the motivation behind personal holdings. Now, a habit that I've tried to lock in is just buying one gold coin a month. I haven't tried, I guess. I've actually done it. I picked something up each month since later in 2013 after the spot price of gold crashed. And for most of those years, it was a quarter ounce American Gold Eagle. I've talked about that before. And sometimes it was more. I've made some other purchases along the way as well. And since I've started this channel, I have gone after some fun purchases, even some larger purchases, but I've always stuck to a minimum schedule of one purchase a month. So after about 9.5 years of a schedule like that, with some purchases on top and some buying before that run up back in 2011, the amount of gold you have, it builds up and it kind of creeps up on you a little bit like your kids growing up. One day they're just taller than you. Presumably. Hasn't happened yet. Anyway, this has kind of been my whole point on this channel. Make some habits, pay attention to decisions, and then just stick to it. The holdings will begin to pile up, and you'll be happy you did it. Now, there is a flip side to this as well, a cautionary side. I just made a video about selling a whole tube of gold, and there were a few comments in there about just how much gold that was, and it is a lot. If you buy a quarter ounce of gold each month for 9.5 years, you're going to have almost 30 ounces of gold. Now, what I have here is a little over a kilo of gold from that habit today. You stick to it, it builds up. Now, if you're just a few months into this, though, it really should not seem like an unrelatable amount to you. It's just something that someone else has done using a habit that you can pick up on your own. Now, the reason I mentioned the cautionary side of this too is that if you feel like you're never going to get there, you won't. The strange thing about the science that I mentioned earlier in this video is that you don't even have to win to get that dopamine response. You just have to think you won. And the same science applies to losses. Losses can lead to more losses. Feeling behind can lead to falling behind. I like that. Maybe I should write that down. Anyway, repeated failures lead to lower testosterone, downward spiral. Now, I get that this is all kind of touchy-feely, a little too sciencey, but I think that it's fundamentally more important and more interesting than any other topic that I've covered this past year. And I figure if there's ever a good time to think about this, to get your head on straight, it's New Year's resolution time. So we're going to take a look at it. You don't even need to start this in January, though. That whole idea of buying on a schedule. Honestly, I would never recommend that anyone buy gold until they had their finances in a place to allow it. This isn't meant to make things harder. It's meant to make things better. So the first step here is just to figure out what you can do and when you can start. And then when you have that, jump in, stick to it, and pay attention. I bet it's going to feel good. A lot of you are already doing this, so you already get it. The next part is just paying attention to what you're focusing on. Humans are wired to pay attention to threats, but we live in a world where we really just don't have them. We don't have to worry about the kinds of threats that we had to worry about in the cave years. The saber-toothed tigers, they are gone, but the conditioning, it's still there. So these stories about the government coming for your gold or the World Economic Forum working to enslave you, those are fill-ins for the absence of murderous cats. And if you worry about things that you can't do anything about, well, you give up those wins and you start thinking about what you're going to lose. And just like you don't actually have to win to get that hormonal optimization, you just have to think you won, you don't really have to lose to give it up. So again, downward spiral. Now, I just say, think about that going into the new year. Look for motivation. If somebody else did it, you can do it too. And set up those small habits to give you small wins. Those wins lead to more and bigger wins, and just ignore those threats being shoved down your throats by the crazy people on YouTube. Or at least be aware when people are greatly exaggerating, even making up the facts to support their wild claims, because they have other motivations that don't involve you winning too. So just don't give them your time, don't give them your attention. It's a new year. Allow yourself the wins. Okay, so that's going to do it today. Happy New Year. I hope you're doing really well. I hope you're able to set this next year up to do even better. Now, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let us know what you're up to. And that like button, that's there as well. It's a big help for the channel, so punch it up if you found any of this interesting. And also make sure you're subscribed if you'd like to hear more on this topic. And if you're still here, thanks again for watching. I always appreciate your time. Take care.